So we're in this series called Redefined. I know you just got back from being in Panama for 2 weeks. You left everything, you sacrificed everything, you lived in a hammock and just craziness. And so that's not one of those things you go and do without it completely changing everything. How did it change the way you think about what God's doing in general?
Personally, for me, just seeing how big God really is. Like, I went to this place, I had no idea what it was like there. I didn't know the people, I didn't know anyone, and so it was just crazy seeing that God was working there, and He was working there with or without people. The place I went, there wasn't even a church yet, and He was still building His kingdom. It was like so cool getting to see what God's doing and what He allows us all to be a part of every day.
What did you learn about the fact that you're not the only one that has the feelings you have about what God's capable of?
There's so many people around the world who are wanting to grow God's kingdom and wanting to seek after God. We just have to realize that we aren't alone, that God's putting people around us, whether we are aware of it or not. He puts people around us, and He puts opportunities around us. He allows us not to be alone, because when we're all together working towards the same goal, then we can do amazing things, for God's kingdom. It doesn't matter if you're a 6th grader or you're just got out of high school. God has a purpose for your life. God's planning it out, and God's giving you the opportunities to be able to do that.
When you go on a trip like this, you have the courage and you sacrifice, again, like you sacrifice your friend group, your family, your lifestyle. You gave up everything. What were the benefits to that?
Well, it's so easy just to be caught up in the same people all the time, telling you the same things, and even your own self, just telling myself what I'm good at, what I'm gonna be good at, what I'm gonna do when I grow up, and all this stuff. But being able to just literally go to a different country without anyone I know, God just showed me that I don't need to let everyone else define me. And it's it can sound so cheesy that we let other people define us, but we do. And we really just need to get to the point to where we let God define us. And it took me going to a completely different place and just letting go of everything I knew, all the comforts of my own life, just getting so uncomfortable. I really learned who I was. And God really showed me that I have authority in His name, in Jesus Christ's name. It's so hard to realize the amount of power that God places in each of our lives whenever we're just stuck in the same situation all the time, or we're constantly listening to the same voices. And there's tons of people around us that encourage us, but it's so easy not to listen to them because there's other people that are telling us bad things about ourselves.
If you had to name one thing, like a big weight that was on your life that's no longer there, what would that be?
I would just constantly tell myself things I couldn't do, things I didn't think I was capable of, things that I wasn't good at. I would be like, yeah, I know I can do whatever through Christ. Then I would just go back and tell myself, I don't have the power to do that. I can't stand up in front of people and talk. I was almost captive to my own thoughts. I just didn't feel free. God literally broke that. Through Him, I can do so much. I can do the things that I'm not good at, because through Him, He gives me the ability to do crazy things, things I never even dreamed about. It was just a new confidence that He awakened in me.
Hebrews 12, 1-2 says this. It says, therefore, since we are surrounded by such a huge crowd of witnesses to the life of faith, let us strip off every weight that slows us down, especially the sin that so easily trips us up. I think having a crowd around us makes us do crazy things. When you have a crowd of people around you, it gives you this courage that you've really never had before, especially to do something crazy. You would never do it on your own. But the fact that 3 or 4 people are going to go do this thing with you, then you do it. It also works negative though, because let's say I feel like I'm good at one thing, but I have 3 or 4 of my friends that are telling me, you're really not good at that. You really shouldn't do that. Then that's when the crowd starts working against you. And so you just need to make sure that the people you're hanging out with are people that actually release things in you, and they're not people that dampen things in you. They're not people that hold things back in you. Just in my life in the past few years, I've just realized that, what everybody always told me I was supposed to do might not have been what I was supposed to do. Everything that everybody told me, this is what you're good at, this is what you're not good at. This is the things that you knock out of the park. And then, here's the things that you'll probably just never be good at this. And I would just tell myself, okay, well, man, these are my best friends. You know, these are the people that love me, that are telling me all these things about myself. And so who am I to think that I can do that? Because obviously they see something in me that I don't. The next thing it says in this verse is it tells us that we should strip off every weight that slows us down. It goes on to talk about how sin is one of those weights that we have to make sure that we get rid of. If there's any sin in your life, if there's anything that you're dealing with that you know doesn't honor God, that's just unnecessary weight. And the sooner you can get rid of that, the clearer you're going to see what God has for you. But I also think one of those weights sometimes is other people's opinion of ourselves. If we don't start to strip off the opinions that other people have put on us to perform to this certain level, to go this direction with our lives, then we're never going to experience that freedom of God.
So when I was on my mission trip to Panama, God really showed me about who I was fixing my eyes on. I quickly learned that I was letting myself define myself, which is kind of weird, and I was also letting others define me with definitions that weren't true. God completely lifted those definitions off of me and completely broke them, and He gave me a new definition of who I am. In Hebrews 12:1-2 it says, "And let us run with endurance the race that God has set before us. We do this by keeping our eyes on Jesus, the champion who initiates and perfects our faith." And so that's just saying, if we fix our eyes on Jesus and we fix our eyes on God's definition for us, then we can run this race with endurance. Not walk it, but run it, and just freely, without weight, just weighing us down. I learned God has a definition for me, and I wasn't listening to it. It's so easy to do that when there's constantly people around you telling you things that aren't exactly true about yourself, telling you what you're capable of, telling you what you're not capable of. We're part of something way bigger than we see with our own eyes. God is putting people in your life right now. You are not alone. That's your next point, that you are not alone, and God has people in your life, and He has plans in your life, and He's going to do amazing things through you. We're all going to do it as a big team, because this is a team effort to grow God's kingdom. Loneliness and just having people in your life that are just telling you things that aren't true, that shouldn't be part of your definition anymore. That shouldn't be part of what you define yourself as. God has a definition for you. The Bible tells you who you are, and that is you're God's child. There shouldn't be anyone that can get in the way of that. And so just remember that the most important definition is what God tells you you are.